Welcome to the Old School Runescape Summer Summary. Some really exciting stuff. I'm Mod Archie.
And I'm Mod Ronan. Today we're going to be going over a bunch of things that'll interest any old school players out there. So we've got the results back from the survey that we did recently, which is gauging the priority of the players and what you guys want to see. We've also going to be talking about a ton of stuff that we've got coming up over the summer. Things you'll have already heard about, but a lot more information on them, and a couple of things that maybe might surprise you.
Yeah, right. Let's carry on to the first slide then. So, as you can see here, we have where are you from? Obviously, the vast majority of you being from the States. Following that, we have the UK. We've actually got Finland in there, a little surprising. Australia, Netherlands, Canada, or Red Batman, and everywhere else. So, yeah, nothing too surprising with that.
Finland's quite surprising. Yeah. That's about the end.
That's fair. Moving on.
So how old are old school players? This is one of the ones which might surprise some of you out there. So we've got obviously a big peak in the middle here, people around age 21, 22. And so unsurprisingly, university students, a lot of them about. What might surprise people is how few people actually play that are under that kind of age. You've got a lot of very, I wouldn't say young actually, no one who plays old school is really that young, which is quite surprising considering the time that old school is from. A lot of people probably been around 13 who are playing now. And when you get over here, not that many people who are over the age of 27 either, which is pretty shocking.
Yeah. It is quite confined, actually. I was a little surprised by that. Right, moving on. So with this next slide, we can see how big of a majority of our player base is actually a male. So 96%, that is an absolutely whopping statistic.
It is.
4% or less being female, and then identifying as other following that. But yeah, 96% male. That's a lot of males.
Pretty unsurprising.
Yeah. Next slide.
Yeah, so just under 95% of you guys said that you had siblings. This is of the people that were participating in the survey. And even more interesting than that, perhaps, is that a large majority of people that said they had siblings also said that their siblings played old school. So if you have a brother or sister, they probably play old school if you do, yep. Which is really cool to know. And that's one of the more surprising things that we did find.
Cool. All right, so here we have what do you do? Or sorry, what else you do? 54% being in education. This actually makes a lot of sense when you think about how large of a player base we have in their young 20s. 54% of you guys are probably in school. 28% in full-time work and 25% in part-time work. Again, that does make a lot of sense considering how so many of our players are in their low 20s.
And then next up, how long have you actually played old school for? This is one of the ones which was really pleasing to see actually. You got over 55% of people have been playing old school for more than 2 years. And when you consider that old school only came out 3 years ago, that's really, really impressive. Loads of you guys are really dedicated, truly, well, old school players, I guess you could say. And then down at the bottom there, obviously this is a little bit less relevant as all of the numbers here, you've got to take into consideration that the people participating in this survey will probably be the more committed, engaged players. So 2.56% have been playing for less than a month. Still a really good number of people that have been invested enough in the game in the less than a month that they played to go find this survey and participate. That's a really cool number.
Yeah, I mean, we had, what, 30,000 people participate in this survey.
Thereabouts.
And as Ronan said, these are the probably more invested players in the game, and we do plan on releasing an in-game poll, I think, to try to target the wider audience.
Based on all of these results, we're going to come up with a more specific in-game poll. So rather than talking about the very general things like what kind of area do you like, so PVM, skilling, we'll be able to talk about some more specific updates, like do you want a new skill, do you want sailing, things like that. So that will be coming up in the near future as well.
Awesome. All right, moving on. So what do you think about old school? Of course, you can't read this, neither can I. But what this does show is statistics from last year as a comparison to this year, being reasons why you play old school, the graphics, that it can run on your computer, everything like that. And as you can see, what we're showing here is nothing's really changed. You guys are continuously happy with the game. There are a couple key differences though, so we'll take you through those. As you can see here, the old combat system is a key reason why I play old school. A little bit less so a reason this year as compared to it was last year. The simple game mechanics of Old School RuneScape are important to me. That is dead center, exactly the same as last year, which is awesome to see. I started playing Old School because I was instantly familiar with it. This is a bigger factor this year, which is a little surprising, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, again, considering how many of our players are low 20s, and the game's been out for a few years now, and the game was, of course, based in 2007, you can assume that a lot of these players played it in actual 2007. So they were quite young at the time, and they really do appreciate that we stick with those old school mechanics. So again, I like to understand how what a player is wearing affects their stats. Quite important this year as compared to last year, so you really appreciate looking at somebody and going, I know exactly what he's wearing. Yeah, enough said. And then the last one here, I feel I have achieved something in Old School when I gain a level, a little bit less so this year, but nearly the same. So really cool stuff there.
And next up, we've got the big changes, which obviously we've had. It's mostly the same, so when we say big changes, that is relative for sure. The community keep me playing Old School. That is less true this year than it was last year, so you guys need to step it up and start posting more memes. I play Old School because I know my computer can run it. That's always something that seems to be a really, really key thing for Old School players, which is pretty unsurprising. Old School's a really low-spec game. So to keep it running on a PC, you really don't need anything particularly expensive. No one wants to upgrade their PC too frequently, and especially when you've got all these like high-spec games coming out these days. Yeah. Having something to fall back on and always know that you'll be able to run it is always nice. It's important to me how other players play Old School. That's something which is less important this year. That's probably thanks to the fact that we've removed a few of the AFK methods which were sort of in your face, like everyone everywhere splashing all the time for 6 hours. That's gone now. Can't do that anymore.
Probably a good update there.
A good update, for sure. And then next up we have competitive PvP is a reason I play Old School. Slightly less important this year again. We've had a few more things engage in those sorts of players recently, so perhaps they're a bit more satisfied. And Old School has too many updates. People don't agree with that as much this year, which is nice to see.
We're doing good with the updates. This is good. All right, next slide. This is you as well.
Yeah, group variants. So this is a little annoying to explain, but hey, let's give it a shot anyway. So we took the overall survey results that we saw, so representative of everyone that took part, and then we've split it down into each small group, and we've said how much does that small group differ from what we see overall. So male players, obviously largely representative of the player base because, hey, there's 96% males. 0.27% variance, so not very different to what we saw overall. Whereas female players, as you'll see a little more detail on later on in the presentation, have a much more significant difference in what they enjoy doing on Old School. And under and over 20, not really much of a difference at all between the two or compared to everyone else involved in the survey. And Europeans and the rest of the world, again, not too much of a difference there.
Yep. Right, so I believe this was you again, but yeah, sure, why not?
Go for it.
The major differences, so females being 18% less likely to partake in player versus player. Of course, that does mean that they might enjoy something else like questing or skilling instead.
Again, we'll see more of that later on.
Soon. Europeans, 5% less likely to player versus player. That's an interesting statistic. Females, 5% less likely to play for the combat system, making sense with the player versus player. Rest of the world, 3.4, very precise percentage there, more likely to play due to low computer specs. So, yeah, right.
So what do you enjoy doing in Old School? This one is, Joe, so just for a bit of context here, top being what you enjoyed most and bottom being what you enjoyed least. So what do the Old School players enjoy doing most? Unsurprisingly, at the top there is killing bosses. Everyone knows that PVM in Old School is it's a big selling point. Slayer, by far the most popular skill. And outside of that, everyone's killing bosses for profit these days. Anyway, you've got Thora, God Wars, what have you. And then, of course, next up, you've got training skills, which, again, no big surprise there. Everyone who plays Old School is generally a bit of a completionist, and the satisfaction you get when you really train skills up high, that is one of the more enticing things about the game.
A bit of a completionist.
A bit of
a little bit. Not me.
Yeah, not me either. And then we've got questing, which is fortunate because we just did our first ever quest in Old School, Monkey Madness 2, really top end quest, Grandmaster, really challenged everyone to sort of step it up a notch for that quest. And of course, in the future, we're also going to be doing more of that. We have some plans. However, most of it's coming down to, of course, what you guys want to see. There's been talks about a Menaphos quest, maybe, Zaya quest, maybe, and even Ian on the team, our engine guy, he's been talking about potentially pulling something out of the Stellar Dawn archive and repurposing it for the sake of Old School.
That's exciting.
Of course, it all comes down to what the Old School players want, so we'll see more about that in the future. And then at the bottom there, unsurprisingly, we've seen this the past couple of years, mini games and then player killing. Both of which we're not going to neglect, of course. We've got Last Man Standing coming up soon. That's currently being polled, and I think it's passing. Yeah. So you guys will definitely see something if you're a PvP or a mini-game player as well.
And I'm just going to stick up for player killing and say that, you know, Deadman was a very big thing.
Yeah, very big.
This year and last year. So you can kind of call that player killing, at which point I'm going to rank it a little bit higher.
And yeah, the differences between what males and females like doing. We did mention earlier, females seem to have slightly different likes to males in the game, and overall we saw that females enjoyed training skills and questing above PVM, which is very different to the majority of players that we saw participating in the survey. But that's the only real key difference there. It's interesting to know, though. It's pretty big.
Okay, so what do you want us to do? Well, with all this information, we've learned that you would like more training skills updates. This is actually a little surprising, because this has overtaken killing bosses for dev time being used. It seems you've had your share of bosses with the Cerberus, the Abyssal Sire, Zulrah, the new boss in Monkey Madness 2, you name it. You guys have enjoyed bosses this year and last year, so you'd like something a little bit different involving training skills. More on that in the near future. Following that, we have questing. That's no surprise. Again, Monkey Madness 2, such a huge success.
Really, probably one of the most well-received updates that we've ever done for Old School. That was really big. It was good to see. It
was definitely very stress relieving, because it was like, well, people might not like this part, but everybody, a lot of people,
the people
really,
that didn't
really,
die
really
too much really enjoyed it.
It was a blast. Right, following that, we have mini games again with Last Man Standing coming shortly. More on that. And player killing, again, with Last Man Standing, and announcing
and Deadman mode.
The Deadman mode tournament date, which is very exciting.
Absolutely.
Again, so what do you want us to do? Carrying on, comparing males to females, sorry. We have training skills at the top. It's nice to see there. Killing bosses quite a bit higher for males as opposed to females. Females preferring questing and mini games over males, and player killing, again, at the bottom.
So, what do we have coming this summer? This is the interesting bit. We're past all the boring data now. So we've got a treasure trail expansion, which we've been talking about. It's been polled. That's happening now for sure. That's going to include new puzzles, master tier clue scrolls, which is going to be absolutely awesome. And then following that, we're going to have numerous tournaments, which again, going to be absolutely awesome. We've got the Deadman Season 1 finale tournament on the way soon. We'll be announcing the date shortly. Last Man Standing, of course, is just being polled. It's currently being polled. Looks like it's going to pass, so that's exciting.
Definitely gonna pass,
yeah. It's going to pass at this point. And then next up, we have more ways to do skilling, which, getting a little more specific there, the Wintertodt. We talked about it at RuneFest last year, and now we're soon going to be doing it. That's going to be happening this summer. And past that, we've also got raids, which we've talked a bit about, not too much in detail. We'll go into a little more here. And yeah, that is the summer for Old School.
There's a lot of stuff there, a lot of very big updates. Going to the next slide. So we have the Treasure Trail expansion first, expanding more on that. Master level clue scrolls, obviously bring an entire new tier, much more difficult, not your typical memorize, oh, I know what I'm doing here, I just got to go to do this emote, I know what I'm bringing, I know everything. These will be nice and refreshing and difficult, and for the more experienced player. Because of that, we've got even more awesome rewards, as you might have seen in our last Q&A.
I'm looking on this here, the bucket hat. I can't wait for that. That's going to be brilliant.
I don't know if it's a bucket helmet, bucket hat.
It's a bucket on your head. Does it matter?
Maybe it's just bucket. All right. This is the Anku set Mod Ghost made. I was blown away by this. Hadn't seen it before. He previewed on the Q&A.
Fantastic, yeah.
Looks amazing. Absolutely amazing. The bucket helmet there.
Looks even better in game.
Yep. We'll have a trimmed version as well. So really exciting stuff. I think there's a spook warning on this next one. Whoa. Right. So this is the mummy outfit. Pretty exciting there. That's Mod Ghost work. So he's made a mummy outfit for both the male and female versions here, as you can see. I can just think of this stuff being really cool, not only on its own, but also in alignment with other outfits in game.
Do you know what I really want to see? And this is never going to happen realistically, but it would be really cool if it did. Someone getting a full set of this in Deadman mode, using it as a hiding spot to escape people. Run through the temple.
Yeah, hanging out in
whack
the
on the
pyramids,
mummy gear, escape, sorted. First person to do that gets 10 mil.
All right. So up next we have the actually changed since our last Q&A. If you watched that, Mod Ghost has made the ornament kits. I guess you're going to call them. They're trims for the god swords, the 3 original there. So we have the Sarah, Armadil, and Zamorak god swords. What he's actually done here is very subtle, but it's a really nice touch. He's taken this was previously gray. This was also previously gray. You can't see what I'm pointing at, but you get the idea. It is a little bit, there you go. This was previously gray there, and so is that right there. So it's just a very subtle change, but it's really noticeable when you're wearing the item, and they look awesome.
Bit more flashy.
Right.
And then next up, we've got Last Man Standing, which I'm very excited about. And apparently the players are too. I posted the dev blog post to Reddit. It got 1,000 upvotes, which is crazy. So very simple concept. There's an island. 25 people go in. They're with max stats. They're all on an even playing field. None of them have gear. And the only goal is to be the last person alive at any cost. So you're going to have to find gear and supplies in order to take out everyone else. And it's just going to be last person alive wins. Simple as that. It's going to be available in free-to-play partially. There's going to be 2 modes, competitive and practice. The practice mode will be available in free-to-play. Competitive has a bit of a twist, where you pay 100K entry, and then the last person alive will get 1.5 mil when they finally take out that last pesky person. That's going to be exciting. Yeah. And yeah, that's going to be a big one, I think. Lots of people excited for that.
Yeah, I mean, when was the last time you heard somebody be really, truly excited about a mini-game update, right?
That's very true.
And there are so many endless possibilities with this, of course. We could also say, instead of just 100K buy-in, we could say 1 mil or 10 mil buy-in. I would totally do that and up the prizes.
I think one thing that we have been discussing as a possibility, and that is as far as we've got with it so far, is potentially, hey, maybe on one weekend we'll allow a separate section where you can maybe go in with 10 mil instead, just to really up the ante a bit and make it even more intense.
I wouldn't even just play, I would totally watch that. That sounds like awesome streamable content. So following that.
The Wintertodt, yeah. So this is going to be a skilling boss. Not a boss that you take your whip to and go beat away at it. It's just you use your skills to fight off this boss. It'll be a great new way to use your skills, get a bit of use out of that fire making, which is notorious for being completely pointless. And then, of course, yeah, you'll be able to train your skills there as well, and I'm sure there'll be some rewards that'll make it worthwhile.
Absolutely awesome. I cannot wait to see how we're going to pan this one out, and as well as the rewards.
Definitely.
Moving on, we've got raids. So scalable raids, as you may have seen us mention at last year's RuneFest, we said up to 100 people will be able to partake in these raids. Very exciting, a very intimidating number, of course. Following that, as you can see, there'll be many new bosses, not the one on the right. That is a concept, a very awesome concept, mind you, of the Abyssal Sire. Never before seen boss mechanics. So as you saw with Zulrah and the Abyssal Sire, these aren't going to be monsters that you just walk up to, auto-retaliate, pray melee, and then just hit and try to eat. These will be very difficult to kill bosses that will require teamwork.
I think we're a bit past the stage of being able to get away with that kind of boss.
Yep.
I mean, the last sort of simple bosses that we released were, what would you say, like the wilderness bosses? And even they're pretty brutal. You can get one bang for like 100 damage out of nowhere with them. So yeah, that's going to be exciting.
Very true. And of course, with those being a lot easier with the team, this will definitely require teamwork. And of course, with such a difficulty, you're going to have awesome new rewards, being the tier 80 armor. Never before seen. We've never dived past 75 even. So yeah, really exciting stuff there.
And then we have Deadman Mode Season 1 Finale. So this is exciting. The last Deadman Mode tournament went down a treat, of course. There were the issues with it, with the fog being a bit brutal at the end, bit of a buzzkill. We've sorted that. Consider it dealt with. We've taken on a ton of feedback, and we're going to make this one much, much better. And it is going to be on the 25th of June. And again, there's going to be a $10,000 prize pool. You guys will be able to find out a little more in terms of the specifics of dates and stuff with that in the coming weeks. We're going to probably do a dev blog on it just to detail all of the changes that we've got. And then, of course, following that.
Yeah. So following that, we have Season 2 obviously also starting the 25th of June. Last time, the new season started just, what, 20, 30 minutes after the first season ended?
Very quickly, yeah.
So very quickly, we're very anxious to get you guys in-game and get going and start your grind towards the next tournament. Of course, with this Season 2, we will have the Grand Exchange. This is the biggest and most requested update to come with this game mode, because we know that this player-killing game mode, you guys don't want to kill somebody, pick up their stuff, and then spend 3 hours trying to sell it in Varrock. You want to take it straight to the Grand Exchange, sell it, maybe even flip it a little bit, make some cash. It's just going to be a nice convenience for everybody.
And that is one of the best things about Deadman mode seasons as well, is it means that we can sort of experiment with these kinds of things. We can try Grand Exchange out this time. If it doesn't work out, hey, next time we won't have it.
Yeah. Following that, we've got no unknowing in banks. This is a very big one. So to try to explain the reasoning for this real quick, if you followed the very early stages of Deadman, maybe you partook in it yourself or watched some streams, nobody really knew about unknowing items on the banks, so they were a lot more cautious with the way they played. They weren't just going to Edgeville, sculling, and going, well, I've got 300 noted sharks, so I'm okay. They were more staying on the outskirts and bringing an escape route, premeditated, and they knew that even if I do run into a team, I'm probably going to be okay. So really excited to see that bring back the dangerous factor of Deadman. Following that, obviously, the PJ timer helping out the single PKers as well as boxing.
Absolutely. So now we're going to be back in just a couple of minutes, and we're going to be going over all of what we've got coming this summer and the survey results with a few people you might recognise. We've got Soup, IanSpam and Skiddler in the building, and we're going to be having a chat with them.
All right.
Zezima, or actually no, Zezima is what we say. Zezima is what everybody else seems to say.
Zezima.
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 Zezima. Zezima.
Hey everybody, and welcome back. We'll be just clipping to the table and the bench, and we'll be going through a couple of questions on what you've just seen, and there's a lot of exciting stuff. I'm really looking forward to see what happens with Last Man Standing myself. Just remember that we've also launched the summer special at the moment, so if you're looking for membership and you want to get involved with all of this over the summer, we're doing a 3-for-2 membership package. Well, right now we're going to go over to the Old School team, sitting down with a couple of the players, and they'll be asking a load of questions. Thank you.
Okay. So, why don't you guys introduce yourself? To my left?
Stefan, Soup, 3rd Edition on YouTube. I'm known for my questionable quest guides, so.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Skiddler. How's everyone doing? Welcome to the stream.
My name's Ian, known as Pure Sam on Twitch, and hello guys.
All right, very brief, wow. No plugins, no nothing, all right.
I thought you said we could plug in at the end of the stream.
You can plug in whatever you want.
Twitch.tv/SkiddlerOS, twitchalerts.com.
He's greedy. All right, so what did you guys think? Anything you're looking forward to in specific?
Last Man Standing, 100%. I'm, ecstatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is that? PKs, obviously, so, like, for us anyway, I guess Stefan as well to a certain extent, also PKing a lot. It's just, for us, new content. Like Demo, when that came out, it was just so hype, and it was just something new to do, and yeah, just really excited, especially with Ronan heading it.
How do you guys feel about the dev blog and how that looked? And what you had in mind versus what we actually came out with in the blog?
One thing that I was concerned about was obviously the overhead prayers. When you pulled the overhead prayers, a lot of people were saying that they didn't want overhead prayers. There was about 30% said they did want overhead prayers.
It was about a 60-40 split at the end, yeah.
Okay, right. So I was thinking, obviously, competitive game mode where people can win money from it.
Yep.
Overheads would be better, I think.
That's the conclusion that I came to as well, based on all the feedback that we got. While it was a 60% don't have it, at the same time, we got to acknowledge the fact that we want there to be sort of a high skill cap on it. But we want it to be accessible as well, so the practice mode is going to be no overheads, competitive overheads.
Yeah, for me, like, making it so that free-to-play members can also join in as well is like a really big thing that can really hopefully expand the game as well as and not exclude people.
I'm excited about that. I don't know how it's going to go. We haven't done anything with free-to-play really since Old School came out, so...
I do like the fact there's an entry fee as well.
Yeah.
Like you said, it was 100K, and you can get some money out of it as well. Could be potentially a good moneymaker, you never know, depending on how long
Well, if you're good at the game, which I'm sure there will be people who are good at the game. You're going to make them bank.
Yeah.
Like 1.5 million, potentially as little as probably 10 minutes if you really get lucky.
Yeah.
And one of the nice
Nearly
things,
as OP as Zora.
one of the nice things is the top 5, or sorry, the top 4, I believe we were also looking at giving a ticket. So maybe you didn't win, you don't get the cash, but you do get a ticket as a free round to go back in there and try to win the next one. So if you're consistently good, you're more than likely to walk away with profit.
Yeah.
It's quite nice.
Gives you motivation to keep going. Be good.
Again, as well, I think everyone, I don't know if you play, Chris, but I think we all play H1Z1, right?
Yeah.
Massive fan of H1Z1, so.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to see something like this in the game for ages.
Yeah, any Hunger
can't
Games, any Hunger Games type survival game is always really fun. To see that in Old School is like awesome.
I think like for a streamer's perspective as well, going into a game like that and streaming it and then getting further and further in. For the streamers that are like a bit smaller or like starting up, if you get into that last 5 people, it's just so suspenseful and the game really talks for itself. So it'll be really interesting to see a lot of content, see who the good streamers are and who's actually really good at the game in terms of PKing and who's really well.
Yeah, there are really endless possibilities. I mean, just imagine the hype around the very first ever competitive game.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to be watching that for sure. Imagine we even took the top 25 winners, the first 25 winners, and then threw them against themselves, and you have an extremely competitive game mode. There's tons of possibilities with that one, so really looking forward to that.
Definitely.
I'm most looking forward to going to a game and killing a Spark Mac or Alfie again, being called a
spam, mate.
See what else I can learn maybe you next time.
No, we were just trying to cook our pies, man.
Stefan, do you think you're going to make any guides for Last Man Standing?
I'll make every guide possible.
Yeah.
I mean, they may not be great, but I'll put them out.
Might not.
No, it'll be fun either way. I think everybody's looking forward to it.
All guides in the games room. In the corner.
Yeah, a couple of checkers games in there, you know.
All right, Last Man Standing out of the way. I know you guys are also hyped for the Dead Man tournament.
Yeah, 100%.
Obviously, Ian, you commentated the first Dead Man tournament.
Which was obviously showed loads of success. 57k viewers, I think, was the peak that we got, which is the most viewers I think that multiplayer have ever had at one of their events.
Yep.
So it was just really fun to be able to actually be on the other end, shoutcasting and watching the game as opposed to actually participating in it. So thank you again for inviting me for this one.
It's funny you should say 57k viewers when actually the little clip of you and Adam trying to take your headphones off that aren't there.
Front page of Reddit.
2.7 million views, I think that was that.
Something like that. That was crazy. I woke up the next morning and I was like, what? My brother was messaging me saying that I had to look at Reddit straight away, and that was crazy. But that was a great experience. And I think for Old School as well, that kind of exposure is really fun as well. And everyone can take part. That's the thing. If you're in the top 2K, I think it was.
Top 2K, yeah.
Right now, so you can definitely take part in that, and it is a lot of fun. You've got potential of winning 10K US dollars grand prize again, which is pretty big. So.
And one of the beautiful things about the first tournament is we looked at it, and immediately I was saying, well, there's so many things that we already know we could fix. We could make this so much better. Of course, it was a bit of a test run, but it wasn't really something we could test without doing it first once over properly. So for example, colors being messed up on the screen, that's obviously going to be fixed. As Ronan mentioned with the fog, not starting out so slowly, starting out more aggressively and then slowing down towards the end and leaving a blank space where people will actually be able to fight. And there will truly be one person left, last standing. Yeah. A whole bunch of little stuff like that to really improve them and make them awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Right. Anything else you guys looking forward to? You're probably not Skillers.
Something I noticed when I was standing out there watching the screen, and I don't know if you've made a dev block on it, excuse my ignorance if you have, was the skilling boss.
Yep.
Wintertodt.
Todd. Good old Todd.
Let's go with Todd. Yeah, no, we've not got into any specifics on that really.
Yeah.
We did the talk at RuneFest, or Ash and John did the talk, I believe, at RuneFest last year. And we mentioned it, and it's sort of gone away since then, because obviously we've been doing a ton of really big things. But it's something we're gonna try and make it as good as we can for, because it's got such appeal to it, because the top two things that people enjoy doing in Old School, PVM and skilling.
Yep.
We're gonna try and combine the two in as natural a way as we can, and make things like fire making useful. I keep saying fire making. It's gonna use other skills as well. Fire making is obviously
pretty useless, isn't it?
The cape looks pretty cool. So does the emote.
I think.
Yeah, it's like
it does. It is one of the coolest emotes for sure.
All right. Well, I mean,
do you have a fire cape? I mean, a fire cape. Well,
I haven't got any skilling capes.
There you go.
I thought it could.
It couldn't have come at a better time, though, right? I mean, we waited until people basically said, please just give us something for skilling, and we're like, boom, we've got this done. I think it actually is Mod Ash working on that, so you know it's going to be good.
God,
what else?
Well, I was going to say, I'm really looking forward to the Master Clues, too.
Yeah.
I'm a huge clue guy in general. I love doing clues. The fact that it's pretty low risk or high reward for a clue scroll.
Yeah,
3 steps, you can get 3rd age. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Master clues or elite clues took it up to a whole nother level. Extra steps, higher skills, but even better loot. And now master clues is going to be
I think
a whole new thing.
One thing we're probably going to try and do with master clues that wasn't necessarily the case with elite clues is try and keep them to a reasonable length, but high difficulty. Like make them really, really challenging rather than really, really long.
Right.
Because obviously one is preferable.
Have you released any of the skill requirements for?
None.
None.
None yet. Mod Kieran is currently doing his content dev training with Mod Maz. Once he comes to the end of that, I think his first big project is going to be the Treasure Trail expansion. So then we'll start getting into the nitty gritty of it. We've got like 1,000+ suggestions for potential clue scroll challenges.
Do you have any ideas of like what the maximum level cap will be, like 80 or something like
John
that?
C mentioned 85+.
99 would be awesome.
99 would not be awesome.
It's so
Don't say
painful
that.
to see.
If it's like
fire
if it's like if it's agility or something, it's just like
99
Please don't
defense
do that.
on every single one.
No, don't do defense, man. I'll be down 9 defense pretty soon.
To be fair, that'd probably pass with like a
It probably would,
90%, like, people hate yours so much.
Yeah.
And you.
I was gonna, but thanks. I was gonna say another thing I'm looking forward to is the raids. You said they were scalable.
Yep.
And obviously I'm a pure, so I'd like to try to do it on my account myself. But that'd be fun. I think it's gonna be doable as not a maxed main, but
We've never really done raids in, well, there's nothing really
Obviously,
comparable in old school. So it's going to be way different. And and I'm interested to see how that goes, because we don't have much of the specifics of that down either yet. Obviously, we've been working stuff. We had a quick meeting a little while ago about the rewards. They're going to be sick. Yeah.
In terms of monetary
Everything.
value or
All of it.
Everything.
Yeah, definitely. At least we're going to aim to make them like valuable.
I mean, tier 80, that alone is pretty.
We are going to be
tier 6. Some tier 6 gear. 6 defense now. Worth
that ain't gonna happen.
I was like, what?
But the one thing, while everyone is currently freaking out in Twitch chat, I'm sure, saying OP, obviously we're going to keep in mind that we don't want to push the game forward too far. We want to make the stuff valuable and permanently valuable, but we've got to do it in a way which is old school friendly, so we're not going and taking things up like 50 notches and making things too OP.
Yeah, well,
sorry, Chris, to cut you
Sorry,
off. You go.
I was just going to say, we've already got 75, so I mean, it's not the biggest jump in the world, and obviously it's taken us a little over 3 years now to get here, and we're very aware of power creeping. It's not like we're oblivious, and then, oh, here we go, here's tier 90. We're taking our time, we're making sure we get it right.
We've got the arc light coming, and we want to do more of that kind of thing in the future, where rather than just constantly moving things forward, we're doing it in a way where we can sort of expand in different directions. But yeah, we're not gonna go crazy.
Yeah, like when you one thing I worry about with like tier upgrades with armor, especially offensive armor or offensive weaponry in particular. So like, say you have the whip, like against other players, like if you're player killing with a whip, you can hit fairly high with that as well. God swords, you can hit massively with those. Like, do you think that when you have tier scaled weapons, so like say you brought out, like you said, 80, like tier 80 weapons, would they be powerful relative to what you were doing? So, for instance, if you were player killing, you wouldn't be able, I don't know, you can hit like an 82 or an 83 or something with an AGS. You wouldn't want a weapon that you can hit like even 90 with.
I think the Dragonfire Shield might be a good example here, because it's not necessarily going to be the best in slot for every gear setup or every activity you do, or even player versus player. You might want the accuracy of the Dragon Defender. That being said, the Dragonfire Shield is still really good, and it's a 75. So
one thing worth noting as well is so far we haven't actually said anything about offensive stuff. I know so far that a lot of the focus of the rewards will be on the defensive side of things. But yeah, in terms of like, so you're essentially saying, are we going to limit that kind of thing in PvP versus PvM versus whatever else? And if we feel it's necessary, that is one way that we can go about it. I don't think we're too keen on doing that though, because it feels a bit artificial to kind of say, this works here, but it doesn't work here for no apparent reason. But if it's the only way that we can push things forward without like throwing off the balance of the game, then we'll consider it for sure. I'd like to think that we'd be a bit more, I don't know, nice with the way we go about the balancing of it.
I remember like in the first year and a half or so of Old School, when obviously people had whips and stuff, and people were like discussing increased weapon tiers, like there were chaotics pre-OC. And people were saying like, well, there has to be a point in which the game goes forward and there are more powerful weapons and stuff.
Yeah.
And then there were a lot of people saying like, we don't really need more powerful like primary weapon than a whip. And there was like a bit of a split there, but I don't really know if we do.
I think it's over time. They're sort of, if we want to do new content like bosses and stuff, we have to have a way of actually getting people to the content, and that's when we need that new gear to really entice people.
100%.
It doesn't need to be like the most OP thing you've ever seen. It doesn't need to be 3 times the max hit of an AGS to make someone want to. You can make it hit 1 more than an AGS,
And people will pay.
And people will pay a fortune for it. Like you can see with like things
primordial
like
boots and stuff.
exactly,
like that.
they're tiny amounts above what was already there.
There's like a difference of like 1 strength.
Exactly, and that's enough to make people pay what, tens of millions.
Exactly. Yeah, what, they 24 mil or something like that.
Exactly.
And
are up there, yeah.
Dragon boots are like 200k.
Exactly.
I don't even know.
Yeah, and even then you could buy climbers for what, like a few hundred GP.
Yeah.
So we don't need to do much to make it better. And even then we can say, oh, it'll have really good strength bonus against this particular kind of thing.
Yeah,
Obviously
yeah.
we don't want to overkill on that, but it's definitely an option and one that we'll be exploring more.
Awesome.
Right. So let's actually dive into the survey results. That was the first half of the stream there. I don't know how much you guys caught of that. Did anything take you by surprise? 96% males?
I'll be completely honest. We were talking to Mod Mark, about his book that he carries about with him for speeches. Nice conversation about it. But yeah, I did see 96% males.
96% males?
Wow,
Yeah.
that's not surprising to be honest.
Yeah, exactly. That's not the surprising stat.
4% female, that many?
Yeah, I'm actually, that's
Wow.
exciting.
What do you mean that many?
This is not a dating site.
I mean, yeah. Well, we've also got the percentage of males that prefer to play as a female. So,
And
there you
you.
go.
Yeah. The fashion
Extra max hit though, isn't it?
Fashion scheme needs to be
That
on point at all
hidden,
times.
that hidden extra damage.
Extra max.
Secrets. All right, let's see. We've got a couple more questions for you. What are you looking forward to the most? I think we've already established Last Man Standing, probably.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that.
That and Master Clues.
Yeah.
If you could recommend one item to be in game with Master Clue Scrolls, something to come from Master Clue Scrolls. Let's see it.
One thing I was speaking about on my, I can't remember if it was on my stream earlier or yesterday, but it was about, and this is going to be controversial, and I don't know where I stand with it either, but with best in slot, like a best, what would you think to a best in slot item coming from a clue scroll? I don't know if that exists at the moment. If it does, I'm sorry.
Rangers, no, not anymore.
Like
still sort of.
Third Age Mage Amulet, but not
you need
anymore.
still. Oh yeah.
The Mage Hat as well, but not.
I mean, it's not the
Yeah,
first
I
time
don't
that
know about the
it
Mage
would have
Hat.
That might be the
Still-
best.
yeah.
Third Age Mage.
Still top, yeah.
Yeah.
It's typically unheard of. I personally totally agree with you. I would love it if the Third Age Bow and the Third Age Sword, being as rare and valuable as they were in fact at least matching that of a whip and like Dark Bow. That would be really cool.
RuneScape is one of those standalone games where, like, you could have the rarest item in the game, and it would just be like insanely high in price, but compared to something that was a couple of mil or considerably cheap compared to other items, it was not as good.
Well, maybe the bucket helmet will be new best in slot.
I'd like to
Top
see,
this up.
I'd like to
Good luck.
see, like in pre-OC, they used to have Zamorak and like Saradomin arrows and Guffix arrows, which you got from Godward's Dungeon, I think you used to get them from, not too sure.
I think they were clues.
You got their clues, yeah. They were good for KC though, weren't they?
Yeah, they'd be good. Like they just vanish on hitting and they're a bit stronger. That or Steel G and T is
What was
definitely
it?
missing in the
It was the
Clue Scroll rewards.
It was the ballistas that we made consume ammo 100% of the time, isn't it? So,
Ballistas, yeah.
yeah, so that is not quite in the same vein as
Or
God
maybe
arrows.
have like an arrow that actually is used by the Third Age Bow, because right now it just looks cool, but I don't think it's very good.
People have requested dragon arrows being used by that bow.
It'd be so OP.
I'm scared to see what would happen if we made Third Age Bow best in slot. What would happen to
would
the
be
prices?
It's already
How-
like
there's-
Bill
it
Plus.
took like, how long did it take for one to enter the game? It was a long time.
Basically, you're never gonna skull ever.
And even if you, like, I don't know, I'd be hesitant to make something that rare best in slot. I think it's a bit cheeky.
It'd be interesting to see whether people want something cosmetic or something that you can actually, like a something you can actually use in like PvP.
Yeah.
Because right now it seems to be a bit split. People want new things in the game, but people also want cosmetics.
Yeah,
sure.
It is very difficult to please the majority when they're so split with some things. So it's really difficult to find that one thing that everybody's just kind of like, actually, yeah, that's a really good idea.
I'd love to see gloves, like the Brawler gloves back in pre-OC, that you can use in PvP worlds and only PvP worlds, because only 2 PvP worlds, it's World 25, World 37. You have to be like in an area that's dangerous to use them and get like a very marginal XP reward.
I recall we made a video together about that just before I started at Jagged.
Yeah, you did.
It was one of the first things I brought up with Matt K, and he was like, bonus XP, That'll never pass a poll.
Yeah.
And that's the fact, like, if we tried to poll bowling gloves, the community wouldn't have it.
Yeah, we can't see the Twitch chat right now, but I can tell you right now it's full of noise.
Wouldn't it be awesome if we could see the Twitch chat? Is that a possibility?
Not right now.
Okay.
Not right now.
At the moment.
Okay.
We'll save you the
It's only distracting.
mental pain.
We know it's all going to be foreheads now.
I'm sure it's only praise.
You say something you think is smart, then you see the foreheads, you're like, oh. All right. So let's go to Stefan here, or Soup, sorry, with what quest you'd like to see. Obviously, we're doing more, following Monkey Madness
What quest would I like to see?
What would you go to next?
No, I'd love to see Elemental Workshop 3 come back. I thought everybody enjoyed it.
You are the one person that would like to see that.
Serious?
No.
Serious, huh?
No,
Okay.
in all seriousness. I'd like to see maybe an expansion of a prior good quest like Monkey Madness, or even maybe Desert Treasure Part 2.
You thinking Monkey Madness 3?
Monkey Madness.
Bit soon.
It depends what people want right now, because obviously probably the most difficult quest in the game just came out in Monkey Madness 2.
Yeah.
And whether people want another, really big scale quest like this, or maybe smaller scale quests, maybe with smaller rewards. But I'm sure at the moment, after the success of Monkey Madness 2, people want to see more quests in the game, even if it's just smaller ones.
We've been seeing a ton of requests for new quest. Yeah. One of the big things that has been coming up is people have been asking for lore on Zeta, more lore on Zeta. So of course, that's a big one that people want to see happen. That's something that we're definitely going to consider, and same with Menethos and all that.
Well, I think somebody mentioned that they had some quests from pre-EOC that they could potentially bring back into the old school Old School Runescape.
Yeah.
I think we've got. Is it Land of the Goblins?
Yeah, Land of the Goblins.
There's a lot of stuff in
something re.
There's a lot of stuff in the game that you'd really just like to see an explanation for, like what's under that bed in Draenor.
Has that ever been revealed? Has that been revealed in the quest? There's a bed where, like, I swear, it like wobbles about.
Yeah, I think Ash will know.
Ash will know. Ash knows everything.
Anything to do with the wise old man, I think, actually would just be awesome.
It would be cool.
But yeah, all right. So quest stuff out of the way. We mentioned doing a PvP poll. You guys like your PvP? Do you PK?
Yeah, occasionally.
Yeah?
Not so well, but
better than Ronin, probably.
Yeah.
No, not a chance. Are you kidding?
Okay.
Going outside the corp cave.
So PvP poll. What's the first thing or anything that you would like to throw on that?
PvP poll. Being able to get your spec back quicker would be cool. Because Russian, I'm not Russian now. I just think it's because like waiting for fights at the Grand Experience. Because in a normal world, you can go to the duel arena. That's how people normally do it. In Bounty Hunter, having some kind of way to just be able to like get all your stats back and all your spec back and stuff, and get straight back into a fight.
So frustrating having to hop to 318, teleport, get a duel, teleport back, hop.
It'd be cool if we could find a way of doing that without plaguing the wilderness with Russians.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
Immediately, I think making you pay for something with the construction update and throwing something in your house,
sick,
and then teleporting there and then getting a spec restored.
Well, we used to have the fire pit. You could just go in there so I can go back to full
now,
spec.
because on Def in Old School, you don't get your spec back, whereas you used to. So you could die in your house and stuff, but you can't do that with that game mechanic.
If there was something to get spec back in the house where you would die, not die, sorry, where you would pay, would you want that as a one-off payment or?
Probably a one-off payment, yeah. Again, I'm just picturing the Twitch chat right now. He's not liking this, but just the only thing I could think of off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I'd like to see. We've seen streamers going into the duel arena and like fighting each other for money and using like food noise options, and people don't normally do that. Having some kind of tournament. Back in I think pre-OC there used to be this like duel arena tournaments where you'd all pay in and you'd like go one by one. And you'd go down to the last person, you come back in between, you get like the large reward. Having something like that, which actually incorporates not just luck and just randomly rolling some dice, but actually having to fight people and stuff, would be quite interesting.
I think the issue with the duel arena tournaments back in the day was perhaps the fact you had to have, I think it was 64 people to start one, which is, you're not going to stumble upon 64 people that are wanting to jump in, at least not often.
Did you catch the Brutality hybrid tournament that they held, I think, a month or 2 months ago?
I didn't know.
Saw of it. Didn't watch anything of it.
Yeah, it was, so basically X amount of people entered. I can't remember how many people they had into the tournament. And the person who was hosting it said, I will supply the winnings, so it would be 200 mil, loads of items. And this is the invent setup you have. And then they formed a bracket from the people who entered the tournament. And I think Felix Sharkones actually ended up winning it. But
that's awesome.
Something like that, that would be, like if you could do that, in your system, with your system in place or whatever, so you don't have to have some guy hosting it as part of a clan. It'd be done through Jagex.
Self-automated system, like
I imagine that would be something that would be more of a possibility in the future, perhaps if we do some sort of clan update, if it would be able to incorporate that. But grouping in Old School is a tricky thing. I know that Ash has been working on grouping for raids. I don't know how possible it would be to chuck money into the mix. But it's definitely something that I think is worth looking into, because those sort of simple to do organised events where you can potentially get some cash out of it, something that I think a lot of PKers would be interested in.
Yeah, definitely.
We're sort of doing that a little bit with Last Man Standing. Not quite in the same vein, but hey, you're going to have money on the line for PvP.
Yeah, Last Man Standing on. Can't wait.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be very skill-based. It's going to definitely cater to those who pay fine detail to the mechanics of the game, strategy entirely, for sure. It's not going to be so much RNG-based, and the rewards factor is awesome. I like it so much more, though I do think Castlewar's armor looks pretty cool. Used to have a full gold set. I think I like getting 1.5 mil cash over getting cosmetic like Addy.
You're going to have a few cosmetics in there. In the dev blog, we'd make a couple of changes that we posted about last week.
Last Man Standing pet.
Not going to happen, mate. Never going to happen.
That didn't take long. The game was not even out, and they're already asking for a pet.
But yeah, we do have a few cosmetic rewards, which will be, you're going to have a cosmetic you can get. So I think we were talking about a cape, similar to the bounty hunter hats you can get, where depending on your rating, it will have a different appearance. So if you're really, really good, then you'll have a snazzy looking cape. If you're really bad, you'll probably still have a nice looking cape, but it won't be as nice. And then we'll also have some way to unlock like the in-game rewards, which you'll be able to get within the actual minigame. So maybe instead of getting a rune plate body, you'll get a gilded plate body or a Sarah trim plate body. So there won't be any like gameplay difference, just purely cosmetic.
Okay, that sounds good.
Sweet.
All right, I think I've got one last question for you guys. Not to stop you from talking, but
flown by.
Right. Have there been any updates that we're not offering already that you would have liked to see us offer? Doesn't have to be big, could be small, quality of life, anything like that.
Talking like things that didn't pass the poll, or things just we want to see?
Probably would help if it didn't already fail a poll.
Divine.
For me, in Deadman mode, the PJ timer that you're putting in, as well as the Grand Exchange, is going to help a lot for solo players that want to play and just make the whole game a lot more enjoyable. As well as obviously Last Man Standing that you're doing. Like in a nutshell, you've kind of taken our opinions and you're going to work with it and give us something really good and new to find out. So I'm excited for those, to be honest. When those come out, I'll be hyped.
Similar to Ian, Last Man Standing was something that I was constantly asking about, as you know.
I do.
Yeah. So that was like the update. That was like my dream update. Last October, I was talking to you and Skill Specs.
Yeah.
And I said, if they release something similar to H1Z1's Battle Royale and RuneScape, my dream would come true. Like,
I think when you were talking to me about it, I think you said my life will go to waste or something along those lines, which is
it was being talked about like the first couple of weeks of when the first demo came out. I think Woody even came up with a small plan of that. And to see it come out less than, what, 7 months later? It's amazing.
It's awesome to see this stuff entirely driven from the community, as well as, like you said, with the Dead Man changes. Just like kind of like this last week we did the Slayer helmets. You were just saying how much you liked those. Those were obviously from the community as well.
I got the Abbey Demon Head one, got it today, this morning. It looks awesome.
I do think that's one of the coolest things about our game is that we take so many cool update ideas from the community. You don't really see that anywhere else. So
1,000 points is a rip-off though. Like straight up rip-off.
Is that regret?
You still paid it though, didn't you?
1,000 points, like.
It's a lot of work.
Hey, it's prestigious.
All right.
It's good.
Any final words then?
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it was great.
No worries. Thank you. Again, join us today. We have Ian, IanSpam, Skiddler, SoupOrHero, myself, and Mod Ronan. We've been Old School for the Summit Summary. Do appreciate you guys tuning in, and don't go anywhere.
Thanks for having us.